everyone, and welcome to Millennial Money. I'm Alexandra Gonzalez, and today we'll be teaching you how to cash flow from short-term rental properties. Joining us today are two really good friends, Chris and Cameron, who started their short-term rental business from nothing. We're very excited to have Chris and Cameron with us here today, also known as the CT Brothers, who recently formed a short-term rental property management company. And we're super excited to have both of you here today to share with our audience how you guys got started and your whole adventure to entrepreneurship. From leaving your job to forming this company, I think everybody could use a little bit of words of advice from you guys. And if you don't mind sharing some of your background, Chris and Cameron, and how you guys kind of met up and formed this company.
Of course. Well, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. And we're very excited to take this entrepreneur step in our life. Both Cameron and I have only been working full-time for ourselves for 1 month now. Yeah. And it's been a journey to get here, about 3 years coming. But a little bit about how we got started. Cameron and I both went to Arizona State. We met. I'm originally from Illinois. Cameron?
I'm originally from here. Grew up in Tempe. I've been here for most of my life.
Wow.
And I was drawn to Arizona because it's paradise compared to the Midwest, as you know, it's a little bit gloomy out there, but here you've got the palm trees, you've got the great weather, everything that draws somebody out to the West Coast, as we know. And when we were in the same fraternity together, we ended up becoming super close in the same pledge class, and we became roommates through college. And we both got the same degree at ASU. So we both we both specialized in marketing in the W.P. Carey School of Business. And Cameron, kind of take it from there. How did it evolve?
Yeah, I mean, we moved in together after college, and through like living in college, you kind of acquire weird pieces of furniture for your house. And I had like a classroom size, like 13-foot wide whiteboard that we brought to this house that we lived in after like our first year after graduation. And we would just stay up so late, all the time. And we would draw out these business ideas, just crazy things that we were like, we want to go into business together. What are we going to do? And we'd brainstorm it and we'd come up with a whole business plan. And then we'd wake up the next morning and go, that's not going to work. But we eventually started reading more into real estate and building wealth through real estate. And that's when we decided we wanted to buy our first house and start doing what's called house hacking. Chris, you want to explain a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And quick question, what was the book that kind of inspired and the reason behind your push to entrepreneurship in real estate?
Yeah, of course. So I have to give a shout out to my mom, because my mom shared the resource with me first, Bigger Pockets, which many people have heard about. It's the online community for real estate. One of the well-known people at Bigger Pockets, his name is Scott Trench. He wrote a book called Set for Life. And that book is a formula of how he went through his 20s to buy real estate properties and eventually become retired we'll say, living the life that you want by the time you're 30 years old. And so my mom shared this book with me. I was 1 year fresh out of college. Cam, same thing. We were both working at separate companies. We got started actually in software sales. So we worked for competitors in the physical therapy software industry. We were saving up our money and we didn't know what to do with it. Again, business ideas left and right, nothing was landing. We read this book, Set for Life, and I was like, Kim, you gotta read this. This is our formula. He read it after, he's like, this is it. This is how we should do it. And so we started with what Cam said is house hacking, where you buy a house and you have multiple bedrooms and you rent out the other bedrooms to cover the cost of the mortgage. Yeah. So essentially, you are able to live for free. Which, as many individuals in their 20s are spending their money, a good majority, if not the highest majority of their money, goes towards rent or living costs. And this will help you free up those living costs to then save and invest in your future, essentially.
Yeah, and something I love about the story and the background you guys just shared is the fact that you aligned yourselves with people who had the same like-minded mentality, which now has brought you to where you are today, right? Forming the successful company that you both are passionate about. And we have a lot of millennials watching us that have this fear of moving from what we call the E and the S side of being an employee to jumping to the B and the I side of being a business owner or investor. I guess what words of advice would you give these people, or what did you face when you decided to quit and leave your jobs to become these investors and actually go full time with your company?
I mean, I think Chris and I have both had this goal for so long of working for ourselves. And it was like we would go into our jobs, and if we ever wanted to take time off, we had to like request it from somebody else. And I can't stand the idea of making a request to some other person of how I should spend my time. And so Chris and I had that goal in common, but we would put in like an 8-hour day at our day jobs and then come home and then put in like 6 to 8 more hours on house stuff. And we were working long days and really, really hustling until we finally came to this point where we said like, all right, can we continue to grow our business and work full time? And the answer was no. We were at maximum capacity. And so that was really the turning point of when we said, all right, it's time to go ahead and like take the leap and work for ourselves. But, you know, in another sense, we wanted it really bad.
Mm-hmm.
We did. And the leap is scary, as many of you are probably thinking yourselves, how do I leave something so secure, so safe, to then go out full time on your own? And it's a big pay cut at the beginning. I mean, Cameron and I are experiencing that now, but it's a whole mindset shift of, instead of thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or if I'm going to be able to survive, of just actually seeing, you know, the work you've put in for the last couple of years come to fruition and say, you know what, I'm too caught up in my thoughts. I'm actually confident and I'm capable of running this myself. I just need to give myself the full capability to do it and let go.
Mm-hmm. And I guess besides like the time management aspect of it, how did you guys set yourself up financially to be able to take that leap and not know that you'll be secure, because there's, in the entrepreneurship world, that's impossible, but I guess being financially preparing for that moment?
Yeah.
This is funny because this is a conversation that Chris and I had hundreds of times. We must have, but I remember when we took the final like leap to do it, Chris was very much on the side of like, yes, we're capable, we can do it. And he had like the strong mindset. And I was like, we're not going to do it unless we have all the numbers in place. And so we kind of had like the yin and the yang of that decision between Chris and I. So we kind of looked at it and we were like, all right, is the business account safe? Like if this really tanked, like, could we survive on our cash reserves? And then we looked at our personal finances and said, all right, how long can we realistically survive without a salary? And once that made sense to us and we had enough money in place, then we took the leap just to minimize some of that risk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great point. There's a lot of people out there who, you might not know how much you spend every single month on groceries, on going out to restaurants, on your gas bill. And that's one of the biggest foundations that you need to get set from the start, is what am I spending my money on and what am I allocating towards my savings? Because if you don't know that and you take this sort of leap, you could be zeroed out on your account within a month and not even know where it's coming from. Once you're smart and you're in touch with your finances and you know where every dollar goes, you feel comfortable and you say, okay, I can get by this month. The next 6 months are planned out. I've got a 6-month leeway to really run with this.
Yeah. And I love that. And now that we've covered, I guess, like the drive that the entrepreneur needs, and like the financial preparation that goes behind that. Can you guys walk me through like your first real estate deal and how you got started in like real estate and the obstacles you faced?
Yeah, we first, after reading the book, we're like, okay, we got to get a house. We've never done this before. What do we do? So we were renting a property in a neighborhood, and a couple houses down, it had just gone on the market, of this brand new big house. It was beautiful. We walked over there, we checked it out, and we ended up meeting the real estate agent who was the owner of the house, who flipped it. And so his name was Jim, and we got to know him a little bit, told him about our goals, what we had been reading and wanting to do. And from there, Jim said, let me take you under my wing and really show you the ropes. And
I mean, he was a good guy to start off with, right? Because he did that fix and flip himself. And so he was able to help us see a property and see it as an investment rather than just like a pretty place to live. So we walked through, what do you think, 5 or 6 houses?
Yeah, I think
And
6, yeah.
we had our mindset on one, and it fell through. And then we ended up getting the house that we got. And we've been super grateful to have gotten that one, because in retrospect, after seeing what happened with that first house we wanted and the one that we got, it was a no-brainer. So
What year did you guys get the house, the property?
That was in 2019, correct?
2018.
2018.
So perfect timing.
Yeah, 2018, perfect timing. And I will say that for everybody who is going to be buying their first house, you will see properties that you fall in love with that you just don't get. And we had a really hard, like 24 hours after we got denied on that one. And we were beating ourselves up. But, you know, like Cam said, looking back, we are in the best house now, and the universe just works in ways that you want it to when you really just let the path run its course.
And what an incredible story too, that once you start aligning with your mission in life, these mentors like Jim come into your life and help you expand even more, right? And show you opportunities that you might have not seen in the past.
Yeah.
And after your first investment, what made you switch, or I guess shift to, okay, we're gonna start investing, to now we want a property management company that specializes in Airbnbs and short-term rentals?
That wasn't an immediate shift. I mean, that was, you know, we went all the way through the gearbox on that one, because we got the first property that we lived in, and then we got another property. We got a long-term rental, because we were kind of following the path of, all right, if we get one long-term rental every single year, by the time we're like 34 or 35, we can retire on that money potentially. And then we did our third house, and we decided to try Airbnb on that one. And it worked so well that we decided that's what we wanted to do. And about a year after we bought that first Airbnb, if I'm getting that timeline correct, Chris, I had a friend from college reach out to me, and she said, hey, I'm living in San Diego. I bought an Airbnb in Scottsdale. Can you teach me how to manage it remotely? And I said, this is going to be a ton of work for you. Here's what you have to do. And she said, well, would you be willing to just manage it on my behalf? Mm-hmm. And Chris and I were like, yeah, absolutely. And then it's just grown tremendously by word of mouth since then.
Mm-hmm. How many properties do you guys manage, and like what does your portfolio look like?
Yeah, so a little bit out of timeline. That property Cameron just mentioned was taken on in November of last year, so 2020. And then after we did successfully we managed that well, we brought on, it was like another 2 in January, and then we saw that we were ready to take this on even more, so we started promoting it on Instagram and really opening up like the word to our network. Mm-hmm. And now we're at 9. We're actually flying to Alabama next week to take on some remote properties.
Miami soon, right?
In Miami soon. We're going to be working there. So right now, as of today, we're at 9. By the end of next month, we should be at about 15. And we set our goal at the beginning. It was like, let's have 10 by the end of the year. We've now expanded that to maybe 100. Who knows?
And so basically, like, you guys realize that instead of investing and being all hands-on and looking for the property yourselves, financially and number-wise, it made more sense to just be managing the properties instead.
Yeah, well, it's tough when, buying these properties, especially in a market like we're in right now. Mm-hmm. Prices are very high, and you have to have a lot of cash to compete with these buyers. So putting a 20% down on an investment property or a 5% down on a primary residence can be tough when the property prices are $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. Mm-hmm. So, for especially individuals like Cameron and myself who don't have a full-time income anymore, we can't shell out that kind of cash to continue to buy. So we're on a path of, if we can get one property per year for ourselves, build the equity there and the appreciation, that's great. And then if we can take on some extra properties from other people, manage them nicely, that's a faster way for us to get to our goal rather than waiting till we're 34 years old to retire.
And you guys just mentioned, so we're in a hot market, right? Where it's clearly a seller's market, prices are inflated. What would you say to someone who's looking to get their first property, but they're dealing with these prices, right, that we're seeing right now, that the houses are overpriced, and basically people are now selling for 30 over asking price. So what would you suggest to someone our age that wants to invest in their first property?
Chris and I might have different pieces of advice on this, but I think just get in however you can get in, right? Like, you don't have to buy a huge 5-bedroom house for your first house just because you can get like a really good loan on it. You can get a little 2-bedroom condo and just start there and start building equity, because you can always sell it. I mean, these are assets that can be liquidated.
And
So
I would
that's
say
my 2 cents on it.
yeah, that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
To that point, if your loan limit, let's say you qualify for something that's $300,000, a lot of times people will go looking for properties that are $290,000 to $300,000. Well, we're now realizing that these offers are coming in at much more than the asking. So maybe you're going to have to lower your expectations to look for a $220,000 house where you can put even more upfront on the offer to secure that. And I know a lot of people are always reaching towards like their max amount because they want the nicest thing they can get. But as Cameron said, start somewhere with a property, build it up while you live in it, potentially do some projects, learn how to run a house, learn how to fix a toilet, learn how to, do the important things that a homeowner needs. And then as you grow your real estate portfolio, you have that knowledge in your back pocket of, hey, I know how much a plumber should charge because I know how to fix something like this.
And I love that piece of advice too, because that's a problem I was recently bumping into, and lowering your price point is ideal, especially right now that we're seeing this bubble. And so, Chris, what would you say are some of the obstacles, and especially in financing, that you guys faced when you were starting off?
Yeah, so the nice thing about a first-time home buyer is you can do a program where you can put 3.5% down on the house. And that's what Cameron and I did as co-owners of the house. So we, for numbers' sake, we did a $300,000 property, and we were able to put 3.5% down with some closing costs that come in any real estate transaction deal. That equaled about $15,000. The obstacle is, saving up for that amount of money is tough for a lot of people because we've got our lives already figured out. We have our expenses. And so, yes, you can cut out some coffee here and there, but if you can't make any crazy decisions to immediately save up that $15,000. So what helped for us was to partner together to be able to afford that, coming in at 50% ownership. So if you can find somebody who has a like mind that you want to get into business with, or maybe it's your partner in life and you guys go in together, it then becomes financially more understandable or reasonable to put that amount of money down. Some obstacles that you do face is when you want to buy solely an investment property, it's 20% down, and that can be a lot of money. So definitely a challenge there. And what happens when you get to that point is you can start to work with investors. There are plenty of people in America that have millions of dollars that want to get their money to work for them. So if you find the right people through your network and you present deals in a proper and clear, logical way, they can be on board and they can give you some of that money.
That's incredible. Yeah, what we preach here at Rich Dad, and the number one lesson is using other people's money, right? So OPM and raising capital, which I think is a skill every entrepreneur needs. And I think you guys have done a really amazing job at selling yourselves and your marketing. So
thank you.
Congrats on that.
Yeah.
So Cameron, how did you guys go from like the first to the second property?
That's a good question. Like we said, we were house hacking that first property. So because our roommates were paying our mortgage, we basically had that rent money back in our pockets every single month. So not only were we saving up on our full-time salaries, but we had that additional like $700 to $800 that we were throwing in our savings account every month. So our savings accounts were growing at a way faster pace than they were before. So to buy that second property after, that first year of house hacking was quicker. It was even easier. Just because we had all that extra cash. We didn't go and spend it. Chris and I talk a lot about expense creep or lifestyle creep amongst ourselves. And we see a lot of people fall into that trap of, hey, I have more income. Now I can increase my expenses. but we've always been really good about saving and investing that money.
And for specific strategy, you're able to buy a primary residence once every 12 months. So if you want to get around the putting 20% down, you can actually wait 12 months and then get another primary. You can move into that primary residence and rent out your previous home. And so that's a way to do it in a quicker method than having to put the 20% down.
And that's incredible because usually what we see here, since we teach financial education, it's a huge struggle when you climb the corporate ladder and you get, your paycheck is even higher, your salary is even higher, and so you buy a more expensive car, an expensive home, and so you never leave the vicious cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, which is the American dream, right? So thank you both for those feasible tips, because I think most millennials need a more practical way of acquiring their financial freedom. And if you're already living in a house and have your roommates pay for the mortgage, you guys save it up and invest it. So that's an incredible testimony of your entrepreneurship.
Thank you.
Thank
we
you,
still
guys.
drive our cars that are 20 years old, and people admire that. At first we were like, should we get a nicer car? But now they have so much character and it's part of our brand.
Yeah.
We've bought a nicer car for the business purposes, and we've driven that. And I prefer my old car because it's nice and I can carry a lot of house stuff around in it, and you don't have to worry about damaging it.
Yeah, and that's the beauty. I mean, you guys turned a liability, like a nice car, into an asset for your business, and I think that's the mindset most millennials need to have.
Agreed.
Thank you guys so much. And if you have any, do you guys have any final thoughts for millennials out there that want to be entrepreneurs?
Man, Cam, what are your final thoughts?
Wow, final thoughts. That's a big question. I think just two key pieces of success that Chris and I have found is it's all in our mentality and our attitude. Chris and I always look at problems and we look at opportunities, and we never think, I can't do this. We always think, how can I do this, or how can I make this possible? Because we always believe that we're capable of something, even if we don't know how to do it.
I love that.
But yeah, that's what I would say. As simple as it is.
That's really good. I would agree with that, and I would add that never stop reaching out to new people who are successful in the industry that you are looking to get in or are in, because they are so willing to help and share information. And we've learned from so many of those individuals who, at first you approach things as they're going to see me as competition. But when you have more of the abundance mindset, people are really willing to share and see you grow if you have good intentions in it. So,
thank you guys so much. It was so exciting to have you both here. And to all the millennials out here, like you learned in this show, every problem is an opportunity, and let's start taking control of our future and creating our own wealth with the abundance mindset. I hope you found this motivating enough to take that leap of faith just like Chris and Cameron did. Click the link in the description below to get your free ebook on how to buy your first investment property. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, click the notification bell, and subscribe to our channel.
Thôi mong chờ, vậy sao bật khóc trong ngu ngơ. Vẫn thế đây bao lâu nay em không hay, chỉ một mình anh ngồi khóc. Nước mắt đây riêng nơi đây em không hay, sự thật là anh nhớ em. Người giờ đã xa, lời hẹn ước đâu rồi, nước mắt đây rơi biết bao lâu thì khô. Vẫn thế đây bao đêm say em không hay, từng giọt buồn sao mặn đắng. Nhưng lúc ấy anh loay hoay trong cơn say, lại nhầm rằng em ở đây. Người giờ đổi thay, tình mình vẫn đong đầy, tìm quên chốn xưa ngày ta quen.